Section 13. 59. Recent studies have found that people who have grown up in the digital age differ significantly from the older generation in their ability to recall basic information without assistance from an electronic device. Researchers believe that because it is easier to search for information, the skill of memorization has begun to atrophy due to a lack of regular practice. Some neuroscientists argue that excessive interaction with digital technology has resulted in impairment resembling that of a person suffering from head trauma or a psychiatric disorder. This deficit in cognitive abilities, such as short-term memory and concentration, caused by the overuse of technology, is known as digital dementia. Constant access to digital devices fosters an imbalance in the brain, with linear and information-searching skills being strengthened while intuitive thinking and emotional capabilities deteriorate. This results in not only impaired cognitive skills, but also negative emotional conditions, such as depression. The good news is, however, that experts tentatively speculate that digital dementia can be reversed, based on the fact that this happens in some forms of dementia when the source of the problem is removed. The effects of digital dementia, therefore, may not be inevitable if users are willing to take measures to actively promote brain health.
Across the world, social and political conflicts are frequently instigated by discord over immigration and the public policies formulated in the interest of regulating it. While the issues related to immigration are often regionally specific, there are also underlying patterns that can be observed on a global scale and used to facilitate the legislation of effective immigration reform. The economic benefits of immigration are often touted by advocates of open immigration policies, as an influx of new workers and consumers can boost local economic growth and raise tax revenues. What's more, immigrant workers, especially those of the low-skilled variety, have been shown to largely complement the existing labor force rather than compete with it. In America, for example, where the percentage of working-age adults without a high school education has plummeted from more than 80% in 1950 to about 10% currently, there are simply more low-skill positions available than potential employees willing to accept them. These advantages of immigration, however, do little to quell anti-immigrant sentiments, as these sentiments tend to possess social rather than economic roots. Social science research has shown that, despite the dire need for low-skilled workers, these types of immigrants are met with greater resistance from the native population than those possessing professional skills, such as physicians and technicians. This may be because low-skilled migrants are likely to present a more alien image in terms of language, traditions, and religion. Such differences are commonly perceived as a social and cultural threat.
Renting a room from an overseas host with Airbnb, or having someone else handle your grocery shopping with TaskRabbit. These are just two examples of the developing sharing economy, which has swelled to a staggering $26 billion globally and encompasses a diverse array of economic transactions. Sharing economy participants buy, rent, and sell unused or unwanted items collaboratively. Sharing has been an integral component of human survival going back to hunter-gatherer societies and cooperative agriculture. But the modern-day obsession with private ownership in capitalist economies has resulted in excessive consumption and a surplus of personal belongings. However, in light of dwindling natural resources and a greater understanding of environmental issues, consumer behavior is shifting back toward more sustainable methods of consumption. Another contributing factor is the emergence of innovative technology, which has streamlined and simplified sharing-based transactions. The sharing economy allows consumers to reinvent the market by conducting transactions with each other directly. This approach to buying and selling, in contrast to the traditional market, has an impact on the culture itself, moving from an individualistic society to a more collective perspective. As the number of participants in peer-to-peer transactions continues to grow, the success of the sharing economy will rely more heavily on its central principle, the establishment of trust between strangers. Inherent within all activities of a sharing nature, trust is the key to enabling these transactions to occur. (62)
American universities and colleges have become a breeding ground for a new form of political correctness. This movement is barely recognizable from its predecessor of the 1980s and 90s, whose dual aim was to place restrictions on hate speech while paving the way for minority voices and perspectives to be better represented in the presentation of literature and history. The recurrence of politically correct speech in its present-day form focuses on the emotional welfare of the individual, operating on the assumption that the fragile psyche of university students must be shielded from offense, thereby preventing psychological damage. This predominantly student-driven movement has precipitated a shift in interpersonal communication, and the previously obscure terms microaggression and trigger warning have come to the forefront of modern language. A microaggression is an action or speech act that is classified as a form of violence despite a seeming lack of hostile or discriminatory intent. A trigger warning is a statement given to an audience signaling that the following content may contain potentially unsettling material. University professors are increasingly expected to issue such warnings so that students who have experienced trauma in the related area may opt to avoid exposure to the work altogether, thus forestalling the evocation of unpleasant memories or feelings. Those who obstruct the campaign to erase uncomfortable ideas from university life, whether intentional or not, face harsh accusations of insensitivity, ignorance, hostility, and more. This culture of fierce protectiveness may be tightening the stranglehold on intellectual diversity and freedom of expression.